First of all, congratulations. One
Thank
thing
you.
I want to talk to you about the process of actually getting the action on beat. And I'm curious, the actors on set, I was just talking to Ansel, they said they were all wearing earwigs and they were able to hear the songs. But can you talk about how you shot that and actually got that edited on beat the way you did? Tequila scene blew my mind. Like, that was insane.
Well, I think the key is it's not so much that it's not edited after the fact. It's like you said, we're playing in the songs on the day, so the actors and everybody and the crew can hear it on set. So in some scenes it'd be in people's ears, and some scenes it'd be played out loud, and also sometimes it's the actors have it and the camera operator can hear it. So it's important for people to kind of be able to hear like the music. So you're choreographing the scenes to parts of the music. So say the tequila scene, for example, it's not that you ever do one long shot of the whole gunfight. You do the separate pieces because everybody is doing their bits to the music. So like Jamie Foxx might have a shot where his shot is to go ta 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 ta. You know, like he's shooting in time with the music.
But he's on time with the beat.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Now, the crazy thing with the gunshot stuff is that the gunfire would wipe out the music. So in those cases, it's literally like a choreographer, you know, giving them accounts and saying, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, like this. And then they like mimic that, and then you kind of cut it all together and it works.
You know, one of the things I love about this film, there's a great moment in the film, and this is something about, I think that's interesting about political correctness, is like there's a line where Spacey uses the R word. I won't say what the word is specifically because it's just hard to say it. But I'm wondering, in the trailers and the marketing, they change it to mental.
Oh yeah, I think it's a thing sort of taking out of context. You know, it's that thing, if you put it in the trailers, it would cause a much bigger deal than it does in the movie. Because within the movie,
it makes sense.
And also, he explains what it means. You know, because like I think when people use that word as a slur, you know, what it actually means is it means, you know, he's saying, and also he's the world's fastest getaway driver.
Right.
So that's the joke, was like, was he slow?
Yeah.
You know, retarded means slow. Was he slow? He goes, no. Well, then he doesn't sound retarded, does he? So it's that thing. Is I think it's like one of those words, especially when that word. It is always a word that, especially in the US, especially in LA, people use it in a completely different context, which is always strange to me. So I also wanted to do a thing. One of the reasons I use that word is I like the idea of Kevin Spacey saying out loud, "Do you know what that word means?" You know, so he actually explains it to somebody. You know, because I think it's also I thought it was a good little piece of dialogue, because also, you know, people throw around that as an insult too much for anybody who's ever so slightly different. And the thing is, you know, Ansel's character has a hearing disability, but that doesn't mean that he's not smart. It just means that he doesn't talk much because he's kind of got tinnitus problems.
Now, I think Bill Pope's a genius. I've been following your work and his work for a long time, but I tweeted you about this because I have no idea how you did this. And the back end of the car takes the camera with it to the left, and it's. How did you do that shot? Is that actually practically done?
I think, I don't want to give away the tricks of the trade thing, but that particular shot might actually be 2 separate shots stitched together.
But it's so seamless.
Yeah, you know what's funny? It wasn't like sort of, one of my editors, Jon Hamm, showed me that, and I said, that's a great shot. I don't remember that shot being that good on the day. And he goes, I stitched 2 shots together. And I kept looking at it, and it was just that we had literally, it's almost like doing a thing where they call it, what do they call it? Where they
like a whip pan?
The array. It's sometimes where you actually, sometimes when you can cut 2 cameras together. Anyway, it was basically sort of 2 cameras stitched together, but it's still like an amazing shot because like the car comes so close to the camera. It's fantastic.
It moves the shot. It's so really cool. Now, obviously, you've been shooting on film all your career, and I think film to me is so much better than digital. It's just my personal preference, and I think you look at people like Rian Johnson shooting Star Wars on film, Tarantino, Nolan. But I think it's interesting that the people are so in love with digital nowadays. I think, and I'm wondering for you as a filmmaker, why film? And I think film looks better than anything else in the world. But I'm wondering for you as a filmmaker, why do you think film is better than digital?
Well, I mean, I just think for me, it's more immediately transportative. That's not to say that you can't like grade digital films to look fantastic, and there's some digital films that I think do look amazing.
Like Sicario looked pretty damn good.
Skyfall, Social Network. I think with this film though is I like the sort of just the actual. It feels like you're watching a movie rather than real life, and I like that sort of element of like artifice to it that makes it just feel different from real life. I mean, what's funny is I think on Baby Driver, I'd say like 95% of it's on film, and then there are some digital bits either on the drone shots or helicopter shots or a couple of nighttime shots that we had to do on the Alexa because we couldn't afford to light the streets. And it's funny, Christopher Nolan, who saw the film the other day, who really likes it, I said to him, how did you feel about the 5% that was shot on digital? And he said, I closed my eyes.
Did he really?
He didn't really say that, which was funny.
He knew it was digital?
No, he was lying, but he was just joking about it. I just thought it was funny.
Now, one of the things I love about the film is you balance. So Stephen Price did the score, but I'm wondering how you balanced score and soundtrack. That's a really interesting thing to develop there because you're dealing with a very heavily soundtrack-driven film.
Yeah, there actually isn't that much score. I'd say it's probably about 20 minutes of score in the whole thing, but Steve Price actually, before he was, when he was still a music editor and arranger, I worked with him like 10 years ago, even before we worked together on Scott Pilgrim. He helped me break down some of the tracks that were eventually in the movie, because I started thinking about writing this like 10 years ago. And he helped me break down all of the tracks. So then when it came to actually do the movie, by this time Steve's won an Oscar and is like one of the most in-demand composers. And I was like, hey, do you still want to do... You get first refusal on Baby Driver because, you were there right at the start. And he goes, oh, I'd love to do it. I mean, his parts only really come in some of the later sections when it starts getting more tense. It's usually when there's moments when, like, Baby's music is taken away... or like he's without music, when you kind of get a sense of the sort of the whine of the tinnitus. So it's a nice thing because for a movie that's almost entirely like soundtrack songs, that Steve does some of the more dramatic bits.
I have to know about the timing on set, how you guys actually matched the music to the action. Were you hearing the music really in your headphones? How did he make that happen the way it did? That tequila scene blew my freaking mind. I know it's a loaded question, but go.
There was whatever. If I was wearing earbuds, I was hearing the music in time, and they had earwigs in. So little earpieces that you couldn't see, but everyone heard the music whenever there was music being played. So we all were able to make our actions.
And often, if there wasn't any dialogue, there'd be just playbacks. Going back. It's like a dance. It's like a dance number.
So you were like stepping on the beat, kind of like you. That's so cool.
Yeah, and the fact that everybody is musical. Jon, super musical. Ansel, who's incredible. You got music and albums, DJing. And what was amazing was listening to Jon's knowledge of music. He would drop like these gems, like old school, and talk about, music and things. So having the music playing, and they had people who was, sort of the choreographers who were telling us where we needed to go, and watching the dance between Edgar, who, had this movie in his head for, a number of years, saying this is the way we want it, and it all worked out. Because had we had some people that weren't as gifted when it came to being on beat or on time, it might have suffered a little bit.
The tequila song was probably the hardest to kind of sync because there's a lot of gun shooting, action, movement going on. Bell bottoms is a hard one too, but I think the fact that we're in the car makes it a little bit more loose, and the fact that these are all gun shooting at the same time. So we did go through a whole prep with Ryan Heffington, who's our choreographer, and we would literally choreograph the bullet shots. So it was like 1, 2. I had 1, 2, 3, 4. Ansel 5, 6, 7. Jon. I would pass the mag, cut it down. It was a lot of that, and so it was very also stressing because it was a night shoot. We wrapped probably like at 8 or 9 a.m. and obviously you get exhausted, and there's bullets, blanks, but guns going on, you know. So it raises the stakes, and it was a fun process, but you know what, a movie created this way forces you to be always there, present, because there's so many things that are happening that you have to be really focused. But no, we already knew when we walked. We didn't have anyone telling us what to do. We already knew.
One of the sickest shots in the movie is when the Subaru does that, goes in, turns around in the alley. And some of the coolest things in the movie are the way he gets your reactions while you're in the car. And I'm wondering, when they shoot those moments, obviously there's stunt guys. I know you're driving at times as well. Well, how does he shoot the reaction shots? Are you actually in a car spinning like that as he's shooting you?
Yeah.
That's sick. Really?
I mean, there's a couple different ways of capturing that. We had a a specific rig that's called the Biscuit, which is a very low platform that essentially has 4 wheels, and you can put the driver's side either on the front, on the back, on either side, and then you can drive it backwards or forwards or sideways, however you want to do it. So sometimes we were on that, for example, when we were in this chase scene that goes out on the highway and turns around, we were on that Biscuit rig. But very often we're just in the car, and there's a camera, you know, and whether it's Ansel driving or whoever, or Jay Fry, our stunt driver, they're driving this thing with, it's already off kilter because there's a giant camera rig on one side.
Yeah.
So it's hard enough to like figure out where that is, but it's an incredibly impressive thing and a very high degree of difficulty because there's no green screen, very little green screen, and it's mostly practical. All that stuff that you see, including that shot that you're talking about, which is real. A ridiculously difficult move to pull off.
That's never been pulled off before.
Yeah, it's like, it's
going 180 in, 180 out.
Yeah, and it's essentially like a moving 360 that you do with a car. It was insane, and the fact that they did it, people were like, "What?"
How would these 3 characters do on Beach Shazam? The 3 characters. See, I'm on Fox. So you host that show.
Yeah.
How would the 3 characters in this movie do on that
They
show?
will fare well. I'm telling them, all my homies, all of my black folks, learn your titles. We know the lyrics, and even me, like I'm on the set trying to guess. In the song, it said, "It's driving me out of," and I went, "It's driving me out of my mind." And no, Fox is poison. Yeah. So, the show has been fantastic. People are going crazy about it, and the fact that winning life-changing amounts of money, but at the same time partying to the greatest songs has been great.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Kind of like the movie.
Yeah.
Getting life-changing amounts of money and
Yeah.
partying to music.
Yes.
That
You guys
is
are
true.
amazing. Wow. One of the things I love about this movie is what Edgar does with the emotional core of the film. Because you have these amazing action scenes, but some of my favorite moments are the ones with you and Ansel, like in the laundromat. And there's this great shot of you 2 sharing a headphone. And I'm wondering how that was choreographed, because I'll sit at a desk and try to listen to music with a friend of mine, and we can't keep the headphones in our ears. They fall out. Can you talk about the choreography of that moment? It was amazing.
Again, it was really highly choreographed. It's a dance, essentially, and so we just had to be in time. Ansel is an incredible dancer and singer. He's such an all-rounder, and that's why this film, I think, is so wonderful, is because him at the core of it is he's so kind of groovy. But so we just had to. We went wrong quite a lot as well. But we'd have fake earbuds in our ear that played the music, because obviously if they played it loud over the set, it would, you wouldn't get clean dialogue, so it would be hell in the ADR, so in the sound studio. So you'd have little earbuds playing the music, so you could do everything in time.
Yeah. Now you both have obviously some amazing scenes in the car, and I'm blown away by how Edgar shot these scenes. Like Bill Pope's a genius. The cinematography,
Genius.
just that one shot of, I think it's the one when you're in, when the red car whips the camera screen to the left. That is the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
That shot is mind blowing.
I
right?
was quite scared in that shot, actually, even though the stunt driver is such a dude and so I felt I was obviously in very safe hands. It was still like my heart was in my mouth. I was like,
Are they real reactions, basically?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
figured.
really fast,
yeah.
and all you can smell is burning rubber, and then also most of the time, it's remote control, so you're in a car that someone else is maybe driving. When they didn't let Ansel do it, he did a lot himself, but when we were in the car, you weren't allowed, which also felt weird because it wasn't. Someone else was controlling you. There was no. You were so out of control. You had to trust whoever was.
Yeah, you're put in a weird place. But
Yeah.
it was helpful for performance.
Yeah.
So it was very natural. I was like, oh, that was a very natural scream, because it was fully. But it also makes the car chases so amazing. It feels like you're present when you're watching that movie, because Edgar took so much detail into it. Everything, we would spend 14 hours a day in that car. We wouldn't do anything else but shoot. And we were like, why are we shooting so much car? And then when you see that movie, you understand. It separates the movie from other movies, which it looks like it's probably someone else driving, and you already know that. It's really us in the car. Ansel was doing a lot of things, and so that just really heightens the level of the movie.
Yeah, it was so awesome. Congratulations to you guys.
Yeah,
It was an
thank you.
absolute pleasure meeting both of you.
Thank you.
I'm curious,